I once moderated a contentious debate between gubernatorial candidates, and I asked one of the candidates, what would you say you admire about your opponent? And this candidate came back with a quick quip and said, I admire the fact that he admitted he was once indicted. So using that as inspiration, turning to both the pro and the con arguments, what would the con argument folks say that they felt vulnerable, points made by the other side that they felt vulnerable on? And the opposite question, for those who argued on behalf of Amazon's virtue, what made you uncomfortable that the opponents said tonight?
Would you like to go first?
Yes.
Mark, why don't you take it first?
All right. So I was on the pro side, that Amazon is good for small businesses. I think the thing that is hardest on the side that I'm debating is dealing with the fact that some small businesses have bad experiences. Now that's normal in economy, so it doesn't really bother me per se, but it's hard to make an argument that this is a good situation, a good scenario for businesses in general when there are people that have bad experiences.
Well, thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, I think that, there's you hear this in Kunal's portion of the debate of really this sort of entrepreneurial drive to succeed no matter what. And I think that we kind of operate as a society in that frame. And so you can sort of look at this and say, well, small businesses should figure out one way or another to make this work. And I think that sort of taps into a very powerful kind of framework in American society, because we've really lost track of the fact that public policy structures markets, and that public policy has structured a market that tends towards, in this case, I would argue, consolidation. And so, I found that aspect of it. I think trying to sort of reset the stage around that bigger assumption is one of the challenges of my side.
Yeah, I think for me, similar to Mark's point as well, is just, there's been anecdotal evidence of maybe certain rogue employees that the other side touched upon when it comes to merging between the platform and the business and aspects like that. And even though they're not generalist arguments, I think that made me a little vulnerable to answer to some of those because they have come out in the press recently, etc. So I think that was one area I think that the opposite side certainly, touched upon, which made me a little vulnerable.
A great question, Ken. I love that we're being forced to consider the other side. When I heard the topic of the debate, is Amazon good for small business? The first thing I did as a financial reporter is start to think about the money flow and the dollars. And there's no doubt that digital business online is booming, and it's booming on Amazon. I mean, there's just no question about that. So that metric is important to think about. My issue was always not, should we label a transformative new technology good or bad, but is the playing field on which it exists fair? And so I had to sort of, think that through a lot more carefully. But, there's no doubt that a lot of small businesses have made a lot of money on Amazon. I think they could be making more, of course, if the structures were different and there were more symmetrical markets.